Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. Amen. Please be seated. So we are in a series called The Beginning, and we are talking about Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. And it's about how God created the world. But we are not going to focus on the details, what he did in the first day, second day, and what that means, because I know there are so many arguments about Genesis. And people love to argue about Genesis because it doesn't really align. It's not compatible with what we learn at school, right? It doesn't really look like it's science. And I shared last week that the Bible, we shouldn't take it as a science textbook. Okay, that's I think important to know. There's a purpose. There's a different purpose why Moses wrote about the creation work of God. And it is not about to argue about science. Today I want to read a passage from chapter 2, verses 1 and 3, and also share what that really could mean to us as children of God. So when we read Genesis chapter 1 and 2, we notice a couple of important things. First, two things. First, God created the world in how many days? Kaya? Okay, 7 days, correct. That's the one thing that we can notice. Second, he did it in what? Order. On purpose, step by step. I want to go over what Kai just said. He created the world in 7 days, which is actually 6 days of work and 1 day of resting, but together it's all finished in 7 days. So what the number 7 actually means to us, okay? So here's the question first. Why 6 days? Sancho, why 6 days? Do you think God's ability, power is limited and he cannot create the world within 2 days? What do you think? Why 6 days? Yeah, if a non-Christian comes to you, your friend comes to you and says, hey son, you are PK. So answer this question. Why did God create the world in 6 days? What is your answer? See, 6 is the devil's number. Okay, where did you get that? I believe that God could have done the whole work in 1 second if he wanted to. Don't you think so? I mean, he's God. Why does he need exactly 6 days? And there's an ongoing argument about the number 6 and 6 days. And that's something that I learned during my, seminary years. I learned a whole I think class arguing about this. What does 6 days mean? And here's kind of a summary of what we actually argued about. So there are people who say that the Hebrew word, there's a word yom, which means day. Okay? So when you read Genesis chapter 1, you say, okay, it was the first day and it looked good to God. The first day over. So that word day is in Hebrew yom. And there are people who say that this day could mean a really long period of time, which is linked to creation view that the earth is aged, is old. We have an old earth. It's talking about billion years of. So one day, like the day means like millions of years. Okay, and it kind of is compatible with, evolution, I think, theory. So they say it's 6 days, but that one day actually means like millions of years or billions of years. And others say that it means literally 24-hour day. One day means 24-hour day. Why? Because when you read the Genesis, the whole book, there's no reason to take Genesis chapter 1 separately and say, okay, here the day means a million year. And then when you read the other chapters in Genesis or in the book of Moses, a day is a day. It's a 24-hour day. So why should we treat this day differently? What is the reason? It doesn't make sense. So we should take, Genesis chapter 1 and 2, the day as a 24-hour day, which makes sense, I think. Also, it's reasonable. And others say, and some people say, I know we should take it as a symbol. It's a symbolic meaning. So even though in other chapters a day means 24-hour day, here in chapter 1 and 2 it's more symbolic. And I'm totally sure that I'm really not sure what really Yom means. And at the end of my class, the conclusion was, believe whatever you want to believe. What is the purpose then? But it was just to introduce different views, and if you think number one fits to you, then you can choose it. But you learn about the cons and pros. But it was worth. But honestly, I'm really not really a big fan of those arguments, because I don't think that's the point of what Moses wanted to deliver. I think what we can really see in the work of creation is that God separated work from rest. So he worked 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. That's, I think, probably the biggest, I think, focus that Moses wanted to tell us. And that matters. Here's this question. Think about this. Have you ever thought about how humans are the only ones on earth who take a day off? Have you ever thought about that? Who has a dog? Who has a pet? We have guinea pigs. Our guinea pigs, they don't party on Saturday. It's Saturday, tomorrow we can rest. Whose dog is like that? You have cats, John, right? Does your cat kind of take vacations or rest? They're always on vacation. Yeah, they always work. They always eat. Animals don't celebrate Saturdays. Trees don't stop growing on Sundays. Only people rest. Only people rest. And it's not because God was tired either. God doesn't worn out. Isaiah chapter 40:28 says, do you have it? Don't you know, haven't you heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth. He never gets tired or worn out. His understanding is beyond our imagination. The Bible says God doesn't rest. He doesn't need to, because he gets never tired. Interesting, right? Also, God exists outside of time. He's not limited to 24 hours or 7-day weeks like we are. Look at what 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8 says. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. So God doesn't need 6 days and then the 7th day a Sabbath. So why did God create the world in 6 days and rest on the 7th? He did it for us. And you have to understand when you read Genesis chapter 1 and 2 that this whole work was for us. God designed this rhythm, work and rest, for people. And I think there are two big reasons for that. First, number one, first, to remind us that we are set apart. As I just shared, we are unique. Like humans only rest. God made humans to be holy. And the word holy, means set apart. Different. Means different. So when God tells us to keep the Sabbath holy, the seventh day holy, He's reminding us that we are not like the rest of creation. You guys are unique. You only are holy and separated, different. Because we are created in the image of God. So God has given us a special privilege as the head of creation. Okay? You have to understand how special we are when you read Genesis chapter 1 and 2. We are His children, created to live differently. That's why we are the only ones who rest. It's a sign that we are special to God. Second, to help us give rest to others. And I will explain a little bit about this. God didn't just say, take a day off. He said, we should bless that day and make it holy. Chapter 2, verse 3. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy because on it He rested from all the work He had done. God said He blessed that day and commanded to us, you should, keep this day separated and different because I rested on this day. So should you rest. It's like God saying, I rested, so you made in my image. Peter, you are made in my image. You should rest too. Because you are my son. I'm your dad. I rested. So because you are my son, you should also rest. It's kind of a sign, a signal that we are children of God. And I think this is kind of interesting because, just imagine, suppose when you rest, who rests together with you? You don't have a girlfriend, so it's not a good case. Okay. David Chair, when you rest, who does rest with you? Your girlfriend, right? Yeah. Patrick, why are you laughing? It's fun. It's funny. Just show some respect to David Chair. Yeah. You are? Okay. Okay. Do not envy too much. In one day you will also have a girlfriend, okay? No, don't worry. You will have a partner for prom. It's not just a commandment. It's an invitation to be like Him, and in that same way, when we rest, we will also invite others to rest together. And that happened in the Old Testament. And the way the people, kept the Sabbath was, they didn't just keep it themselves, but they keep it together. They kept together, like all the animals, their pets, their slaves, like children, wives, and husbands, the whole family rested together. It's a communal commandment. It's an invitation. So when you're a boss, like working, Minya works in a chicken place, right? Kugu chicken. So suppose your boss is a Christian, and he says, "Hey, Sunday I have to keep this day holy, but you guys, you work, you don't rest. You make money, you make me rich." Does that make real sense as a Christian? No, that's not Christian. That's not a Christian. But many Christians do that. They think it's okay. I have to keep this law and rest on Sabbath because God has commanded to rest. But my employees, they're not human beings, so I was just joking. But I think Christians don't understand this fully, because if they understand what Sabbath should mean, they should rest together. Like, I'm a pastor and I believe that I should keep this day holy, but I tell my son, hey, you should study, right? You're a student. Don't come to church. I can rest, but you cannot. You don't have the right to rest. That's not a Christian, right? So the law of Sabbath actually is not a like just one-on-one personal like commandment. It's an invitation for everyone, and God has kind of commanded this to you and me so that we can also help others to rest in God. So being a Christian actually means that you bring more rest to the rest of the world. That everyone can rest in God together. That is our mission, to invite people. It's not just physical rest. I'm telling more about the spiritual rest that we have, that the people are striving, they're struggling, I think. But when Christians approach them and say, hey, you're not alone. God can give you peace. God can comfort your heart. And they will find peace. They will find rest in God. They will find Sabbath in God. And that's what we are supposed to do. And I see this commandment here. Okay? So when we read Genesis 1, we often focus on what God made each day. That's cool. But even more important is this truth. We are made to be like God. And when we keep the Sabbath, actually we are kind of inviting other people to become like God and rest. And I think that's the thing that I wanted to share today. Okay, I want to end here. So actually there's a part 2, but sometimes I just felt like, I should speak less. No, I'm planning to, just read the Bible, like, reading together, like a couple of verses and then just finish a sermon. I'll do that soon. Because I think, I'm looking at my son, and that he's the standard. If he starts to, fall asleep, I think that's a sign that, others should also feel like bored. And my son just, started to. But not today, but today it was more John. John Chong started to fall asleep, started to lose focus. So I thought, okay, if my EM members are not focusing, that it should be here. Like, let's stop here. We just learned about a wonderful, I think, lesson from Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 to 3, that, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th day. I mean, what that could mean to us, right? And I wish that you understand that you are special, that you are made to rest. It's a special privilege only given to human beings. Why? Because God loves us. And secondly, to set apart this special resting day, you should practice it so that you can also help others to understand rest. And that's how we differentiate from other people. When Christians come in, like when they, join a community, join a group, join workplaces or school, people will notice, oh, that person has something like genuine, legit in their hearts that makes them live differently. Why is that? Why is Deborah not so stressed because of her grades? I would kill myself if I would get a 2 in my AP exam. But she's okay. I'm not saying that she got a 2, right? But she looks okay. Was that Minyak? 2? No? Okay, sorry. But she's okay. I think, why is she okay? Why does she have that peace in her mind? Why is she so peaceful? And, she opens the Bible lunchtime and then reads the Bible. Right? No, showing like difference, how you can actually really find rest in God. We'll invite other people also to become more curious about God. And that's why God has called us to rest to show other people that they are also made to rest in God, that they don't need to work the entire life, work off and make so much money that they cannot even use it all. It just spoil their kids, right? That's nonsense. That's not what life is about. And you should go out and see the sky today. When you look in the sky, it's beautiful. God has created that for us to have rest. And that's what Christians should do. You guys are called to show what rest is, okay? Okay, let's close our eyes. We have a response now? Okay. Can you come out? Let's thank God that He has created the world for us, that He has created rest. Resting is a privilege. It's not just having fun and doing nothing. Please rest in God. That is a sign of being children of God. Secondly, it's not just for you and me. Resting is for all of us, your friends. We are called to invite others to rest, find rest in God. So if you feel like you are not resting well, if you feel like you are not, your heart is busy all the time, that you cannot focus, you feel like lost, you feel like stressed, probably I think you have to find God, who has created rest, who has created Sabbath. And if you're too busy because you're playing too much games and you're working too much, or too busy because of your relationship, then you should stop and say, hey, I have to halt and seek God, because only in God I can find true Sabbath, rest. I need rest. I need to rest. You guys all need to rest. That's how God has created us. There's a rhythm. So let's close our eyes and let's ask God that He helps us to find rest in God, that we manage carefully our daily schedule, our weekly schedule, our yearly schedule, so that there are days where we can seek God and find rest in Him, that things gets back to the right order, the right system and rhythm. If you don't have that system, you should create one. You should have to build one. Okay, let's pray.